It all kicked off with this god-awful racket shaking my whole house one morning like an earthquake had a grudge against my coffee and decided to settle it right outside my kitchen window. Honestly, I nearly dropped my mug and my laptop, nearly did a nosedive off the counter, that's how bad it was. So I bolt outside, heart hammering, still in my pajamas, and there she is. Susan Hargrove, queen of the Maple Ridge HOA, acting like she's starring in a one-woman demolition derby, wielding a rented jackhammer like it's Excalibur, and my poor walkway is the dragon. Dust flying everywhere, concrete chips bouncing off her fancy shoes, and not even a glance in my direction. Just pure focus tearing up a path that's been just fine for 12 years because in her twisted logic, some hairline crack meant the end of civilization as we know it. You ever just stand there dumbfounded and wonder if you're on a hidden camera show? That was me gaping while Susan turned my neat little entry into a construction site. I mean, this woman has been after me since the day I moved in, nitpicking my grass, moaning about my old pickup truck, dragging the HOA board into every little thing once my golden retriever so much as wagged at a bird and she tried to report him as a threat. She runs the board like it's her personal fiefdom, Tom. Her husband, the HOA treasurer, always backing her up, and Linda, the secretary, taking minutes like she's chronicling the Magna Carta. Honestly, I used to think I'd just lay low grill, my burgers wave to the mailman and stay out of HOA politics, but this was personal. Standing there in a dust cloud, I shouted over the jackhammer. Hey, Susan, you planning to leave a crater for the mailman? Or just redecorating for the apocalypse? She stopped, yanked her goggles off with a flourish like she'd just unveiled the Statue of Liberty and shot back. This walkway's a hazard, Mike. One lawsuit and the whole block's in trouble. I'm doing you a favor. You know what I mean? It took everything not to laugh out loud because unless you crawled on your hands and knees, you wouldn't even see that crack. But to her, I guess it was a threat to property values and her sense of order. She claimed she'd warned me, said she filed notices with the HOA, which I never saw, and when I asked about permits, she just waved me off, practically daring me to do something. File a complaint if you want the board's got my back. Then she fired up the jackhammer again, turning her back, and I swear I've never wanted to pour cement in someone's shoes so badly in my life. Back inside, snapping photos through the window, I felt something shift. I'd always played it cool, tried to get along, but there's only so many times someone can bulldoze your peace before you decide enough's enough. So no angry rants online, no cops, no passive-aggressive flyers. Instead, I sat down, brewed another coffee, and started Googling quickset concrete. If she wanted to play dirty, I'd play smart. Couple days later, Susan pulls up in her white SUV, parks it half on the street, half on the city-owned grass she treats like her personal velvet carpet, popping the trunk, unloading groceries like she's prepping for the end times. As soon as she disappears inside, I move fast. My buddy from a local masonry shop hooks me up with fast-curing cement. I prep the hose and forms, and in 5 minutes flat, I pour a little slab right up to her back tires. Not enough to scream vandalism, but just enough to lock her in. Yeah, that happened. Back to my coffee listening, and soon enough there's this confused honk tires spinning, and then this shriek that'd wake the dead Susan kneeling, poking at the cement like it's an alien artifact, then pounding on my door. You did this? You vandalized my car. I open up, lean on the frame, just as calm as can be, and say, why would I do that, Susan? That'd be almost as bad as jackhammering someone's walkway without asking. She's livid, threatens to call the cops, but freezes when I mention the new security camera across the street. Total bluff, but the look on her face, pure gold. Now her SUV is stuck. The tow truck guy won't touch it. City inspector rolls by and instead of helping her, gives her a citation for parking on city property and unauthorized concrete. Meanwhile, her jackhammer mess is still right by my porch. Susan starts unraveling. She tapes "do not tow" signs on her car, calls emergency HOA meetings, even sends out flyers accusing sabotage in the community. I keep quiet, just let her stew. And, it felt good, like finally someone had called her bluff. But it's not just about payback somewhere under all this mess. It's about drawing a line saying you don't get to steamroll people just because you're loud and have the keys to the clubhouse. Still, Susan doesn't give up. She hires a lawyer, this slick guy in a suit who shows up at my door with her grinning behind him saying, "We're suing you for property damage." I just smile, hand over my folder with all the photos, emails, even real garage cam footage, and say, "Funny, because I was just about to ask you about the permits for that jackhammer job on my property." Suddenly, the lawyer's all about alternative resolution, mumbling as they slink away. Then comes the real twist. I finally show up to an HOA meeting, first time ever, clutching cookies and a motion for a vote of no confidence. Room goes silent. Tom, her husband, won't meet her eyes. Linda, after a pause, raises her hand, says, "You went too far, Susan, even for you." And just like that, the spell breaks her grip on the board, cracks. But Susan, being Susan, tries. One last. Hail. Mary starts flying drones over my yard, calls in fake complaints, digs little trenches around her SUV like she's reenacting D-Day, even builds a shaky website threatening some HOA judgment day. At the final emergency assembly, she stands on a pile of storage bins, ranting about community standards, while the neighbors roll their eyes. Old Mr. Jenkins' Vietnam vet from across the street just pipes up, "Didn't you start this by wrecking his walkway?" And the whole room just bursts out laughing. She files a last-ditch lawsuit, gets shot down in court. The judge literally sighs, "Ma'am, you started this mess. Case dismissed." The look on her face like someone stole her crown. Eventually, her SUV gets quietly towed away. I run for HOA president, not for revenge, but to make sure nobody else tries her brand of crazy again. I win by a landslide, promise sanity, and people actually start enjoying the neighborhood again. One morning, a few months later, I roll over a bag of mulch and some wildflower seeds to Susan's porch. Knock on her door. Say, "How about we turn that patch where your SUV sat into a garden?" She eyes me suspicious, like she's expecting a trap, but then steps aside and we start working together. Silent at first, then actually talking about plants. By the end, it's not quite forgiveness, but it's something maybe even peace. Funny thing is, after all this, I can't help but wonder, was I the hero or just another cog in the HOA circus? Sometimes the line between justice and petty revenge gets blurry, especially when egos and property lines collide. So what do you think? Was I right to fight fire with fire, or should I have just let it slide? Drop your wildest neighbor story in the comments, like if you've ever had to stand your ground, and let's talk about where you draw the line between standing up for yourself and just stirring the pot.